BlackRock froze $1.2 billion of client funds, but they're not the only private credit company having issues. We've seen multiple companies halt withdrawals in recent weeks. Are we seeing bank runs happen as the potential cracks in the system begin to show? And what does this mean for the markets if there is a blowout? But further, what does this mean about investor confidence in the economy as this current moment is going on? There's a lot of strange stuff happening in the world, obviously. And it seems like those stressors are everywhere right now. This really goes into why Bitcoin was created in the first place, why there is a need for Bitcoin, period. And I think this moment in time is really proving not only to us, obviously, but I think to the world that you do need to have some Bitcoin. So I'm sure you're asking, look, why are we talking about BlackRock, private credit? This is a Bitcoin show after all. Well, you know, BlackRock has a huge Bitcoin ETF. And is this showing us what can potentially happen to Bitcoin? But further, there is a parallel to another Bitcoin company here that is doing something similar. I'm sure you've heard the phrase digital credit be thrown around for a while now. So let me just start with the BlackRock news, and then I will compare it to the Bitcoin economy or the Bitcoin product. So here's the big news. I'm on Yahoo's Finance, and it goes, BlackRock's private credit woes. Time to sell the stock, quote, headline. Of course, BlackRock is having a little issues on their stock right now. But what really is interesting is, of course, BlackRock restricted withdrawals from its private credit fund, the HPS Corporate Lending Fund, or the HELend, following a jump in redemption requests. Of course, this was initially reported by Financial Times, but I don't have a Financial Times account, so I can't show you the Financial Times. But anyway, HELend, which manages approximately $26 billion and is one of BlackRock's largest private credit funds, received nearly $1.2 billion in redemption requests, or 9.3% of net asset value in the ongoing quarter. However, the fund will only pay out $620 million of that request, touching the 5% quarterly threshold. Obviously, if you read the fine print, BlackRock can do what they want. They are in control of the money, which is one of the memes we always talk about. I know you guys think that memes are just memes and it's just things we say all the time. But it's really, once you give your money to these institutions, once you give your money to the bank, it's really not your money. And it's incredibly hard to get your money back out once you put it in the Wall Street black hole. Anyways, BlackRock acquired SPS Investments. You don't really need to care. Nonetheless, again, if this was just a single moment with BlackRock, probably wouldn't be that big of a news story. But in the recent weeks, we've seen this play out a couple of times. And the first one was, of course, Blue Owl Capital. That happened about last week. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago, like on a Friday, Thursday, where the news came out and they pretty much brushed over it. They were like, oh, it's not really a concern. We're just kind of adjusting here. We just kind of changed the rules a little bit, but there's no worries out there. And then follow that up 3 weeks later, we see that BlackRock is also having issues. But again, they're not the only one. Blackstone did something similar. So this is kind of a theme going on right now. Obviously, with what's happening in the Middle East, there's a lot of stress in the economy. I don't know if you guys saw what happened with oil over the weekend, but oil crude futures are going parabolic. There is a correction right now. Apparently, there was... the oil factories got struck over the weekend and there was a lot of, black rain. There was fires. There was crazy videos on Twitter about it. So there's a lot of uncertainty going on right now. And I think the cracks are starting to show. I think investors are starting to feel this. I think the markets are really pricing in a prolonged war. If you're looking at equities today, they're dropping. It's not looking that good. But anyways, going further, Of course, Helen's redemption request news came amid growing apprehensions about systemic risk in the private credit market. Earlier this month, of course, Blackstone announced a rise in its redemption cap from 5% to 7% after facing a surge of investor requests. Last month, Blue Owl. So yeah, about 2-3 weeks ago, I wasn't wrong. Blue Owl Capital moved to restrict investors' withdrawals from one of its retail-focused funds. Further, Apollo's global CEO, Mark Rowan, has warned that a shakeout is coming for private credit firms as the industry faces concerns about rising defaults on loans to software companies. Again, with this kind of backdrop, with all of these stressors in the system, it is an interesting story. I think it is telling us a lot about what is going on and how do you really price in what is happening in the economy. Obviously, there's a lot of news. There's a lot of people paid to tell you everything's good. I know the official White House is saying, hey, everything's better than ever. Though I do have a pretty interesting video here that is, I'm going to play it in the culture for you guys. That is a corollary to something we saw a few years ago, which is, pretty interesting to see. And it's really starting to make you wonder what is actually going on. How confident are we in that the system is doing well, especially when you're seeing these types of signs? Now, going further, obviously, here's a couple Twitter breakdowns of it. Breaking: BlackRock just froze 1.2 billion in withdrawal request in private credit fund. Here's what happens. The short of it: investors in BlackRock's $26 billion fund asked to pull out 9.3% of their money. BlackRock said no and capped withdrawals at 5%. Blackstone did something similar. We saw Blue Owl Capital literally say, hey, no returns. Two of the biggest funds right now on the planet are limiting how much you can take out. It's really starting to make the case that, hey, you probably want some of your wealth in Bitcoin and further in cold storage. You want to be able to control your money because with what you're seeing in the Middle East, with what we're seeing from BlackRock, I don't know. It's looking like if your money is in the banks right now, and I don't want to go full doomer here. I do believe the fiat system will probably survive for a little bit. But you really want to have some money in the exit boat is kind of the short of it. Now, this tweet here, I think this is the tweet that really kind of brought it to my attention, though. Again, forgive me, guys, but it does seem like it might be some AI slop here. I think they did use like ChatGPT or Claude, whatever, to write this. But there is, I think, a kernel of truth in this. So they're saying a black swan alert. They're not the only one saying this. But again, the whole, billions blocked. They're saying the system is cracking, panic is spreading, and liquidity is gone. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily full-blown panic time, but if you really look into it, it does sound like there was a bank run happening right now in private credit. Again, they can do whatever they want with their money, but pretty much if everyone goes in to redeem their money at one time, they don't have the money there. That's like the short of it. That's the takeaway from any time you give an institution your money. That's why they had to pull back from 9.3 to 5%, is because they didn't expect so many people to redeem their money. And now that they have wanted to get their money back, they're like, actually, we can't give you back all of your money. You see where the problem's coming. Anyways, going to the bottom here, and I think this is where you start to kind of see that, hey, one, there is a worrying sign here. And two, when I compare that to what we're seeing in the Bitcoin space with the quote digital credit meme, it's a stark contrast, okay? So here we go. He goes, bad news often happens all at once. The opacity and the leverage in the sector is concerning. This is a $1.8 trillion industry. And further, we're seeing rising oil prices, war in the Middle East, AI shaking up the software companies that borrowed heavily from these funds, and rate cuts seemingly off the table. I don't know if you guys heard, but they're saying we might only see 2 rate cuts right now. We'll see what happens when Warsh gets in there and, whatever political pressure he sees and what actually happened. But when the world's biggest fund starts saying you can't get your money back, that's a massive red flag. That's basically what we're saying here. It's a massive red flag to see BlackRock, Blackstone, and even a smaller one like Blue Owl Capital say, hey, look, you can't get your money back. Sorry, I know you want it, but you can't get it back. This is why I believe in some sense Bitcoin was created in the first place, is because it's your money. You should be able to do what you want with your money when you need it. Now, this really brings in the question of, will they do something similar with all the Bitcoin in their ETFs? Obviously, they're the biggest Bitcoin ETF holder. You can see here 768,000 Bitcoin. So this isn't just, hey, that's in private credit markets, has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Obviously, if there is panic spreading, if there is some kind of huge blowout in a $1.8 trillion market, obviously that is going to probably tank all of the markets. Now, Bitcoin, as I've been kind of covering for you guys, has been doing pretty good in the face of the war, rising oil prices. Bitcoin's holding up pretty good right now, and it is very interesting just in that respect alone. Now, I said I was going to compare this to what we're seeing in the Bitcoin space. And this is where it gets pretty interesting from a purely Bitcoin perspective. Well, we saw today, this morning, Saylor acquired more Bitcoin, a lot of Bitcoin actually in one time. Acquired 17,994 Bitcoin for roughly $1.28 billion. Now, obviously, you're probably like, okay, dude, Saylor's going to buy all the Bitcoin. Saylor's been buying all the Bitcoin. The only reason we're probably not crashing right now is because Saylor's buying Bitcoin. But this is where it gets pretty interesting, because out of that $1.26 billion, $1.28 billion, 377 million of that was on STRC, or stretch alone, which is the new digital credit product from Strategy, from Michael Saylor. There's a huge interest in this, quote, digital credit idea, and it's catching on. And investors are looking at what Saylor's doing with Strategy, or rather with Stretch. And again, maybe these two stories are uncorrelated right now. Maybe the traditional private credit market investor isn't necessarily looking at what Strategy is doing, at what Stretch even is. But there is a stark contrast right now. And I'm not even the biggest believer in the idea of digital credit. I get it. And hey, it's catching on. The markets are really interested in it, apparently. You know, who am I? I'm just a guy. I'm looking at the data, and it's like, okay, well, there seems to be problems in the private credit markets. There seems to be some stress. There seems to be general uncertainty. Maybe there is panic spreading. But when you look at what's happening in the Bitcoin space, particularly with the Stretch product, there's a lot of interest in it. There's a lot of capital flowing into it. So you're seeing, as we've been talking about for a long time, there is the fabled, parallel economy growing right now, and a new financial system being built on top of Bitcoin. It is just like, when you look at them next to each other, it is a very interesting dynamic playing out. There might be issues in the fiat system. Obviously, I think we can acknowledge that there is, though we do have a bias. We are Bitcoiners. This is, we look at everything through the lens of Bitcoin versus fiat system, or the fiat money. And, maybe we're connecting some dots that aren't necessarily there. But, it is an interesting stark contrast that we are seeing happen in real time. And to add on top of all that stress, again, like I mentioned, we're seeing very interesting stuff happen in the oil markets, particularly with the war happening and what happened over the weekend. I'm not going to play any of the videos for you guys, but if you're on Twitter, you've seen the videos. There's black rain. They're literally videos of just the night sky with burning oil, and it's just it looks pretty apocalyptic, to say the least. It's a pretty terrifying image to watch, and it goes a little further, just to kind of go on a slight tangent here. Like, it is crazy that we are all on social media watching potentially a world war happen in real time. Like, I really don't know if the human brain was wired to really be monitoring the situation as closely as we are, because it truly is just insane to watch. I mean, we probably saw it a few years ago with the Russia-Ukraine stuff. It's pretty insane to be watching this all happen in real time. Obviously, there is a lot of different incentives for people. Some people stretching the truth. engagement baiting, et cetera, other people to downplay it. But I think when you watch all of this stuff happen, you're like, whoa, there is some general insane chaos happening in the world. And obviously the markets, I think, are pricing that in. And we all know markets do not like uncertainty. Now, on top of that, as Marty Bent said, and I really like this tweet, is we have a double whammy black swan event materializing with a potential World War III. Obviously, a lot of people don't want to take it that far, though it does seem like that's where we are. But oil shock turbocharging inflation. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the oil futures are going insane. They did correct a little bit, but they went as high as $124 over the weekend. And now they're roughly around $100. And then all that is happening as private credit markets begin to stumble. What does that probably mean? It means the printer is coming. Whether they're going to print for this prolonged war, for the midterms, what have you, I think it's pretty safe to say that the money printer is turning on. Do we know in what capacity? No. Do we know when or where that money will hit? No. But as the Bitcoiners have been saying, like Lynn Alden, Lynn Alden's Nothing Stops His Train, Larry Lepard is the big print is coming. With all of this news happening, you definitely want to protect yourself. And I'm guessing if you're here and you're watching a Bitcoin show, then you already know what the protection is. It is saving in Bitcoin. But part of our hope here is that people that might just be casually following along, they see all the writing on the wall, and it starts not to scare them into Bitcoin, but they start to seriously take the advice of you need to have Bitcoin in self-custody, or else who knows what might happen to your wealth. I don't like to be a doomer. I know this is a little doomy. I don't want to be the fiat doomer here, but I'm just saying as a Bitcoiner that it's heavily biased in Bitcoin, that, I don't hold any Bitcoin, but if I did, I would be all in on Bitcoin. It does make you wonder what is actually going on in the economy and what is the best way to protect yourself. Again, equities are going down right now. They seem pretty toppy. They're been red for the last couple of days. Oil prices are going up. Add that with, I know inflation is really low right now, at least the official numbers, but energy prices are going up. I think oil prices went up 63% in 1 month because of what's going on in Iran. So there's general uncertainty. Things are getting kind of out of hand. We might be seeing problems in private credit markets. All of this is making you wonder, like, yeah, I should probably, at the very least, take some of my wealth, put it in Bitcoin, at least protect a little bit of my wealth in Bitcoin. If we see some kind of, great panic, recession, who knows? I've been saying for a while, if things get worse, it might be depression level stuff. But what do I know? I'm just comfy in Bitcoin, watching Bitcoin, and trying to really parse all of the information from all the other macro indicators and seeing how this will relate to Bitcoin. Now, with that being said, obviously, there is big contentions right now on whether Bitcoin is impacted by the larger macro picture, or is Bitcoin still kind of doing what it's been doing with the 4-year cycle? And I will cover that on the news because we do have some big news updates for you guys that are in Bitcoin. Some of you guys have been telling me about this in the chat. But again, the truism, the heuristic here maintains the signal that once you give your money to an institution, to a bank, it's very hard to get your money back. Now, this could be a 21st century bank run scenario playing out where more people want to redeem their money. They're saying, hey, you can't do that. We've seen this happen in the past. When the banks get in trouble, everyone does a bank run. They try to get their money out at the same time. And obviously, they don't actually have your cash on hand. As the saying goes, the first one to panic is usually the one that's safe. Now, this isn't full-blown panic signs I wouldn't want you to go full-blown panic. Like, realistically, as you can see from this news, if you wanted to get your money out right now, you couldn't even do that. So it's one of these things where you need to slowly but surely be looking at what is my protection here. How do I actually protect myself? It is getting Bitcoin exposure, but further, taking that Bitcoin into cold storage, securing the keys for yourself, because not your keys, not your Bitcoin. And this is where the bigger theme that I've been talking about on the show really plays into what I'm saying right now. We are seeing, and I like to call it an attack, but you could say it's just information warfare. So I guess maybe an attack. I guess I I really crossed out what I said. Wall Street does want to incentivize you to give up your keys to your Bitcoin, as we can tell with what the million coins in ETFs here. Let me double check. What is the figure here? 1.601 million Bitcoin. Oh, wait. Yeah, held by ETFs and exchanges. Mainly, probably, I think the number is about 1 million plus in the ETFs. That's a lot of Bitcoin that is under control of Wall Street. And if they're having these issues in their other products, I wouldn't want to be holding these products personally. I've been saying it for a long time. Yes, part of me was excited about seeing the institutions come in because I was really hoping they'd pump our bags. Here we are, and we're down to 60K. I think it's like 68 right now. And we haven't seen the price go up like we thought it was. But they are doing a very good job of dropping new Bitcoin products to incentivize more people to give up custody of their Bitcoin for whatever incentive structure that would, convince you to let go of that Bitcoin. And if we know anything about the prospectus from these ETFs, is that is in the fine print that, hey, look, you might not be able to get your Bitcoin back. Now, again, I don't want to fearmonger, but it is, at the very least, a very interesting thought experiment going on. Hey, we're seeing what happens in Wall Street in private credit products. We're seeing what's happening in the Bitcoin credit markets. And we're seeing what's going on globally. It's a lot to be concerned about right now. And you want to be protecting yourself. You want to make sure that you have hit the exit boats. You're getting out of the theater before it's too late. You got to start today. You got to make sure you're getting some capital into Bitcoin. If these stressors are something we will look back in hindsight and say, yeah, it was super obvious what was coming down the pipeline, I'm mad that I didn't make my moves before everyone else started to hit the exit door. Now's the time to be preparing. I mean, really, you should have been preparing for a while, but us Bitcoiners, we've been doing this for a long time. But my hope is that people will watch this video. Obviously, I'm one person. I'm a YouTuber. It's like, as the saying always goes, if you're getting financial advice from a YouTuber, you probably have bigger issues here. But it's definitely a warning. It's definitely something that you should be concerned about. Again, is it full-blown panic time? There's still debate for that. There's still potential runway for them to figure it out. But if you're seeing it, like, why would you wait for someone else to figure it out when you can take control of your own money? That's kind of the big takeaway here. If we are seeing a private credit market collapse, black swan, multiple black swans right now in the world, you probably want some money that is outside of the system because you never know what's going to happen. And like I've been saying, in the face of all of this, Bitcoin has been pretty resilient. Now, obviously, there is a bit of concern, or rather maybe a bit of a conversation of whether Bitcoin is holding up really well right now because of people wanting to get into Bitcoin, seeing the concerns and capital flowing into Bitcoin, or whether it's like we're already 50% down. Like, how much lower can we go? Though, famous last words, obviously it can go lower. Historically, in bear markets, it does go lower. But the conversation is very interesting. And actually, let me pull out a couple tweets because I think it does make a pretty good case for what is going on. Actually, there is a little bit of debate whether this is happening right now or not. And here's the first one. VJ this morning, he goes, equities down, gold down, bonds down, and Bitcoin is up. Pay attention to relative performance. It's a signal. Now we have TXMC, who he's a Bitcoiner. I'm like positive he's a Bitcoiner, but he's also maybe a little more bearish on Bitcoin, or maybe he's a sober-minded Bitcoin thinker. And here's his take. And he goes, when Bitcoin is already down roughly 50% after 5 months, while equities stayed resilient throughout, seeing it manage to hold up in a day where equities are only down 1%, surprised it's not more, isn't nearly as notable as a lot of y'all are making it out to be. It means it isn't very relevant to what's going on when you really think about it. It has already wiped out a lot of its positioning long before this conflict. There isn't a deeper meaning. A lot of y'all made similar mistakes in early 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine, and there was a random pump amidst war chaos. The, oh my God, safe haven, no. Funny enough, Bitcoin was also down 50% back then. Context matters. Don't turn a molehill into a mountain. You know, you're getting both sides of the case here. Hey, maybe it's just because, you know, Bitcoin is down 50% right now and it's holding up very well. Obviously, with buyers like Saylor right now, and of course, the interest from Wall Street and whales are also picking up the coin right now. You could make a case that all of these things aren't relevant. But I think, as VJ said, the relative performance in the face of all the general uncertainty, at least from a biased Bitcoiner perspective, it is signal. It doesn't necessarily mean everyone's getting into Bitcoin, but it's literally at times like this where you realize that Bitcoin was meant for this exact moment. Everything going on in the world, Bitcoin was meant for this time. Well, it's also literally, it is like we have it now. In the past, when we saw things such in 2008, etc., we didn't have an exit route to Bitcoin. We didn't have a Bitcoin. And of course, in the last, 17 years, Bitcoin was kind of too young to really fill that void. But we are starting to see Bitcoin fill that void in real time. Slowly but surely, Bitcoin is filling that role. Whether it's the Saylor products, whether it's Bitcoin in cold storage, whether it is the permissionless, borderless, literally non-physical characteristics of Bitcoin, I think it's proven itself really well. We're still very early to this Bitcoin thing. But in the face of all of this, Bitcoin has been very resilient, and I'm equally surprised at what it has been doing, considering that anytime we've had any bad news, Bitcoin has been nuked first and foremost because it is the most liquid, saleable asset. We might be changing that course, boys and girls. We might be in a new era. Now, I know that this time is different. I always eat my words on this, but it's very interesting to watch right now. I think the macro kind of landscape is the most interesting thing going on right now, whether that's the geopolitical or what's happening in the macro economy. That's the interesting stuff going on in the world. I know it's not as sexy as some other news story. It's not as interesting as like TMZ gossip, but it is the great story of today of what's just happening on the geopolitical level. So anyways, we might be seeing the beginning signs of some kind of shakeup in the not only monetary order, but in TradFi. Again, this could be one of those moments where in a few months we look back and it's like it's so obvious. But for all of us Bitcoiners, we're just sitting on the sidelines, happy. Happy, unmoisturized, unbothered, in my own lane, stacking Bitcoin, watching everyone wake up to why they need Bitcoin. It's an interesting time to be a Bitcoiner, just to say the least. It's an interesting time, period, in the story of modern, humanity. It's very interesting where we are right now. And I'm just super happy to be a Bitcoiner in Bitcoin chilling. All right, guys. Anyways, to keep the show going, there is an interesting clip going around in regards to what is happening in the Middle East. It is reminiscent of what we saw in 2020 in the news. We have another Bitcoin milestone that is really starting to show how scarce Bitcoin is. And I'm going to play by ear for the culture. So that's the layout for today's show. Quick commercial break, and I'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
Okay, everybody, we're back. The current Bitcoin price is $69,030. That is a 45.3% discount from all-time high. The market cap at 1.38 trillion. And I don't really know what's going on with Clark Moody's dashboard right now, but this block height, the block height's just been stuck on here. It is currently 940,016. I repeat, 940,016 is the current block height. Okay, guys, I saw this from Michael Krieger, and let me just play the clip. Let me just play the clip for you guys.
This is a short-term disruption for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain be for long-term gain.
We're going to have some short-term pain with long-term gain.
Short-term pay for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain, yes, but we've got some long-term gain. Short-term spike for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain for American consumers.
We may have to deal with that in the short term.
Short-term and temporary.
Temporary short-term pain.
It's going to suck in the short term.
Some short-term pain.
Short-term pain. We have to focus on the short-term.
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 Short-term and long-term.
Short-term blip. Hopefully this is a short-term pain. Short-term is highly outweighed of the long-term benefit.
Some short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain.
Oh, man. I don't know, guys. This is reminding me of something I've seen in the past. I know it's so long ago, but we've heard something very similar in 2020, 2 weeks to stop the spread. Everyone was saying that. And it was a lot longer than 2 weeks, okay? Now, obviously, we're starting to see the official talking points being spread on corporate press currently. And usually my initial reaction is to always think the opposite of what you see coming out of the official, government mandates, what you're seeing on the corporate press. And right now, the narrative is, hey, what's going on in the U.S., what's going on with the oil prices? As they said, it's short-term pain for a long-term gain. Now, I do actually like the rhetoric here. And then before you guys throw tomatoes, it is very interesting to see politicians saying, hey, we got to have some short-term pain for long-term gain. And I know I'm repeating it here, but I do like that idea. That's something Bitcoiners we talk about constantly. Like, you do have to sacrifice in the present a little bit to, do better in the long term. And we haven't really heard too much from politicians saying this in recent years. It's usually the opposite. It's very, high time preference. Hey, we got to do this now. Like, forget about the future. What was the other saying they would say? Debt is money we owe ourselves. Basically, like, F the future, doesn't matter. We'll just keep rolling over the debt. We don't ever have to pay it off. It's like, we deserve this now. So it is interesting that we are hearing this short-term pain for long-term gain. But it is just reminiscent of what we heard in 2020 is all I'm really going to say. Okay, that's all I'm saying. It feels like I've heard this before. It feels like there is some kind of psyop happening, whether you know what the truth is or what not, or what side of this you're on ideologically. When you see everyone parroting the same thing, all it makes you think is, yes, there's some kind of propaganda machine happening right now, and I should probably think a little more critical about what's going on. That's all I'm really saying. I don't care where it comes from, but when you see the talking points like this and everyone is saying the same thing, it does make me, at the very least, feel uncomfortable. And you're like, okay, what are they trying to distract me from? What don't they want me to question? And, maybe we're just getting better at social media where these things can come out so quickly. It's just very interesting to say the least. Yo, you guys are funny. Heard you say several times that you don't have any Bitcoin. Bullish boomer. Yeah, facts. Yes, exactly. Proof the media is corrupt and have their agenda. Guys, look. Do they run their own node? Yes, yes, hard hodl, we do. We are node runners, okay. I think everyone here has their own node. We don't have an official Simply node, okay. I hope I passed your purity test. Anyways. There is, I don't know if you want to say just malfeasance at play, sorry. But there's something going on, right? And one of the things that Bitcoiners have been saying for the longest time, now we really, as an industry, we probably don't have the luxury to just ignore everything because we are growing up and we are becoming part of the greater conversation. But from a individual standpoint, one of the things we always say is that you can just opt out. You can just ignore all the noise and just stack Bitcoin. This is kind of where I connect the two ideas. We're seeing the talking points being laid out constantly. They're going to repeat this until everyone basically gets brainwashed into believing this. And part of my job here is to, talk about this stuff so that we can be aware of it, so that you know what the psyop is. I don't know where this ends. All I'm saying, we're seeing it play out in real time. And it's very interesting. And since you guys know, you guys yell at me a lot because I do lean into the idea that I am a Bitcoin propagandist. From one propagandist to another, when I see it happen, you're just like, hey, I see the mechanism at play. You're not that slick. We are in the information war currently. You guys are all the frontline soldiers. We are all a part of this. And it's definitely upon us to try we don't have to necessarily counter all of the BS, but at times it is necessary to highlight it so that people could maybe somehow wake up. I know a lot of people will hear this and they'll just agree with it. They turned off their brains, but it's just very obvious to me on this side of the camera to be like, yo, come on, guys. Just come on. Opti has seen inside. What's this mean? Okay. All right. Anyways, let's keep going. Actually, Rusty Buckle. I'm not saying that this is new. That's not what I'm saying. But anyways, the comment here is, I watch Vietnam more on live TV news. This is not new, but it's good for all ages to see it so they know how real this is and it's not a video game. Yeah, that's kind of the point. It's not that it's new. It's just that now, because we are all on social media, or at least us, everyone that hangs out in the chat, basically all of my friends, we're all chronically online. We internet too hard. So it's very obvious to us, but there's still a lot of people that aren't on the internet as much as we are. They aren't monitoring all the situations with the 1 minute chart. They're still completely oblivious to how the propaganda games work. And it is very interesting. When I go talk to my parents a lot, they still watch the corporate news. And it's one of those ideas where I think once you do unplug from all of the noise, you go back and you talk with your friends and family and you realize like you are arguing with the television, in the sense like you are arguing with the talking points. It's not really an argument. You're just kind of talking to a wall. If you look for it, you can see it happening in real time. And that's what we're doing. We're just watching this all happen in real time. I actually was joking. Again, another little side tangent. I don't know if I said this on the show or I said it off the show, but I was saying something last week. Again, I think I was on the show. Maybe I just said it right off the show, where I was like, yeah, I've gotten to the point now, everyone in my family thinks of me as like a conspiracy theorist. And I'm sitting over here being vindicated on everything. I'm like, I was right about everything. I am right about everything. Now I'm just kind of bored, because what's the next conspiracy theorist? Now everything's a conspiracy theorist. And I'm like, we gotta pick and choose our battles. Not everything is a conspiracy, but it does seem like most of the things I used to believe for decades is now becoming like a normal conversation point with your normie friends and family. And at this point, I'm like, what's the next one, guys? What's the next psyop? What's the next conspiracy theory, so that we can all be aligned again on, hey, we're actually doing some revolutionary stuff? Because right now I'm bored. I'm like, I've been right, guys. I'm completely vindicated on everything. Okay. Vindicated on everything award. I've been telling my friends and family these things for years, and now they're coming to me with the craziest stuff. And I'm saying that with this clip in mind. It's like, okay, maybe we're starting to see the next psyop happen in real time. Maybe I'm going to get inspired again. Maybe I'm going to have some fun again. All right. Anyways, let's keep it moving. One more commercial break, and then we'll talk about a huge Bitcoin milestone that you guys have been asking for in the chat. Well, it's official. I'll cover it in 1 minute.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 5-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
Okay, guys. Well, here we are. And Bitcoin has officially crossed the 21 million coins in circulation. It is official, guys. There's only a million, well, a little less than a million now, but only a million left, a million Bitcoin left for the next 14 years. Scarcity and Bitcoin. It's happening in real time, guys. So here's a chart. You guys have been asking for this, as I told you. And though this one is a little, it's not fully updated. I don't know. Oops, wrong one. So it says block high again, 940,006. Mempool is saying we are at 940,020. So it's a little back, but the point remains the same. There's officially been 20 million Bitcoin mined, which means the last million Bitcoin will be released from here until 2140. There's not that much Bitcoin left, guys. We made it. Actually, I have another really good chart, and it really kind of shows. Did I save it? Yeah, here we go. Let me pull up Glassnode's take on this, and it goes, 20 million Bitcoin now exists. This took 6,267 days. The final 1 million will take 114 years. Here's the time it took to reach over 20 million on-chain milestones on Bitcoin, and you can see transferred volume exceeds 20 million, 729 days. Total transfer exceeds 20 million, 830 days. Market cap exceeds 20 million, 841 days. Daily transferred volume exceeds 20 million, 880 days. And then daily transferred volume exceeds 20 million, 1,336 days. 20 million UTXOs created, 1,398 days. 20 million UTXOs spent, 1,436 days, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You see, and then we have 20 million Bitcoin mine took 6,267 days. So what, 17 years in, we got to the 20 million Bitcoin mark. Now, obviously, when we talk about Bitcoin, we usually say 21 million hard cap, 21 million Bitcoin is all that will ever exist. In practice, though, we really do price in the 21 million without actually seeing all the 21 million. And I know there's some arguments and people saying like, oh, Bitcoin has a real, Bitcoin does have inflation because coins are still being released, et cetera, et cetera. And let me go on Clark Moody's dashboard and let me see what I haven't looked at the realized inflation, or what's that metric here? Well, I can't find it. I can't find it on his dashboard right now. Where'd it go? Okay. Don't know. Where'd it go? I used to have it saved. I lost it. Anyways, it's under 1, right? The realized inflation. And that's where I think a lot of people get, here we go, forward monetary, there I found it. Realized monetary inflation, 0.83%, or forward monetary inflation, 0.83%. So in practice, you can say like there is an inflation rate to Bitcoin. Like it's got the lowest inflation rate per se. But again, we all essentially price in the 21 million Bitcoin right now. We know the hard cap supply. We know how many there's going to be. So we all kind of do the 21 million math when we talk about Bitcoin. But we finally got the 20 million threshold. We have mined or released 20 million Bitcoin into the world. And the next million is going to take 114 years. Now, the other conversation is obviously, one, are people waking up to the idea of true scarcity? I think we still have a long way to go in the idea of true scarcity. And you can see a lot of Bitcoiners essentially saying that once the world wakes up to what true scarcity really means, what a hard capped asset is really worth, then that's when you get the FOMO. I think we're in the early innings of this. And actually, I made up my mind. I know what we're going to talk about in the culture. It's a recent clip that was on PBD. And it's just going to further my point here that I still believe we are early to this thing. There's a lot of data points to show whether we are early into this thing. And you might think that these are two conflicting conversations. It's like 20 million Bitcoin have been released. Bitcoin's already hit 100K. It's at 68K right now. Like, how can you say it's early? Bitcoin's been around for 17 years. It's like, how can you even with a straight face say that you're still early to this thing? And it's really because so few people really understand Bitcoin. Like, yes, some people are holding Bitcoin. Yes, there is a budding ecosystem around Bitcoin. But still, a lot of people don't, even if they're holding Bitcoin, don't really understand what Bitcoin will do, what it is, what the impact is in the world, unless you're down here at the rabbit hole with us, unless you're, obsessed with Bitcoin like you and me are. A lot of people are still hopefully ignorant of what Bitcoin is. It reminds me, and everyone said this before, I'm not the first one to say it, but there's that one kind of rhetorical tool of if you get 5 blind men to touch an elephant, they're going to think it's totally different things. And we're seeing this play out right now. Different professionals in different walks of life all look at Bitcoin through a different lens. And depending on who you are, what your circumstances are, you might view Bitcoin as something other than it is. Even amongst Bitcoiners, we have debates on what Bitcoin really is, what it will really do. But the point remains, 20 million Bitcoin officially released. And this does bring up another conversation. And I know Nico and I have had these arguments on the show about the 4-year cycles, but I really like this tweet here that really kind of explains, maybe further explains kind of what I've been saying for a little bit. Here we have APSK 32. And he goes, it seems reasonable to me that halvings impacted available supply, which led to Bitcoin's 4-year price pattern. Wait, it seems reasonable to me that halvings impacted available supply, which led to Bitcoin's 4-year price pattern. Now that 20 million out of 21 million coins are in circulation, I don't think they matter. Any remaining 4-year pattern is some combination of groupthink and external seasonality. I expect the pattern will become less useful over time. Oh, I didn't pull it up. But I think this is where my view is on things are different. Things have changed. And I do believe the general direction of this tweet that, and that's kind of why I was saying that these things this time are different with institutions coming in with the last halving, because the amount of Bitcoin that gets released now, it's not a significant chunk to really change the dynamics and the economics of Bitcoin when you have institutions or even one guy like Saylor buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin. it wholly offsets the amount of Bitcoin that is released daily. And then once you add in a bunch of people buying Bitcoin, I think this statement will be truer as time goes on. Maybe we're not there yet. Obviously, we did kind of hit the 4-year cycle perfectly. But I think this is directionally correct. As we get further out away from the initial 4-year cycle movements, with the amount of Bitcoin being less and less and less, the 4-year cycles, I do believe, will have less of an impact. Right now, we still have the psychological impact of it, and I think that's kind of what played out. And then further, you could call it greed or what have you from Wall Street, but I think they played into this idea and they wanted to launch a lot of their Bitcoin products at the bottom. So we are in an interesting time. Not only is this a historic moment, we have officially mined 20 million Bitcoin, but I do also foresee that we will be seeing some kind of dynamics change in Bitcoin. Obviously not like tomorrow, like this isn't going to happen today or tomorrow or even this year. I think slowly but surely we will see that things will fundamentally change. Again, it's going to be a slow moving train, but I do directionally believe that this is true. I don't know. I'm getting trolled here. Okay. I'm getting trolled in the chat. Anyways, to further my point, there's an interesting clip going around from PBD. So I'm going to end it on that today, and I'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com.
Okay, guys. Well, you know, I can do whatever I want with the end of this show, right? It's called The Culture, where I can give Bitcoin takes on cultural moments, whether that's the fiat system failing, whether that's a meme review, whether that's about Bitcoin culture, whether it's commentary on the larger culture, or what's just playing out in the eye of the masses. I can do all of that. This gives me free reign to do what I want here, okay? I am the dictator of the culture segment. And as I said, there is a lot of FUD. There is a lot of people talking about Bitcoin that maybe think they understand better than they do, and they completely dismiss Bitcoin. And I truly believe that we are still early in people's understanding of Bitcoin. I think for the most part, you like make up your mind about Bitcoin. It's kind of like the sailor journey, where super smart guy, obviously, billionaire, rocket scientist, very famously came out and said, hey, Bitcoin's days are numbers. Bitcoin's days are numbered. And then now, years later, he's the biggest Bitcoin bull. Once you publicly make a stance on Bitcoin or against Bitcoin, it is very hard to roll that back. It is very, you know, you publicly say something bad about Bitcoin, then a lot of people just dig in. Now, I saw this clip going around, and this is your safe zone, bro. And it's Terrence Howard, who's been in the news for other things. Obviously, he's an actor. Probably you could say I don't really listen to actors when they talk about Bitcoin, but he very famously came out and said a few years ago, where he made a huge splash, that, you know, he rewrote physics and rewrote math. And there's a lot of people trolling about this, but he went on PBD. PBD is one of the biggest podcasts out there. And this is his take. Just let's listen to this. And if this doesn't tell us we're still early, obviously you guys will say, hey, just because one person said something about Bitcoin doesn't necessarily mean there's a greater trend of this is how everyone views Bitcoin. I totally get that. But the fact people are still saying stuff like this is just like, we got a lot of work to do. Anyways, here's the clip.
Bitcoin is going to die. I don't mess with it.
You think Bitcoin is going to die?
Oh,
you touch nothing with crypto.
I don't touch it.
Tell me why you think it's going to.
Well, I just got a call from somebody a couple of days ago and said, "Hey, if you got 25 million, you can make 75,000. I just want to put it inside of an account to do some stuff." And this is a friend of mine, and I was like, "Do you realize that Bitcoin is still based on fiat? It's still and because the dollar is decreasing in its value, because the uncertainty of war around." Nobody wants their money in something that can be wiped out with a push of a button somewhere. I've stayed free and clear of it because it's been dropping a great deal.
Love it, dude. Such bear market vibes. I swear, look, if you guys have been around for a while, it's always in the bear market that we get clips like this, and then they always say something similar. It's like, hey, I don't want to touch this Bitcoin thing. I mean, just look, it's been dropping so much. Why would I touch that? We've heard that forever. Now, the first part, I don't know, that did, like, I'm not really mad about him saying, like, yeah, my friend was telling me if I put 25 million in something, I could get like 75K yield or whatever he was implying. I'm like, yeah, on that kind of a smart move, it does kind of sound like a shitcoin or some crypto scam stuff. Like, I get that. If it's too good to be true, it's probably a scam. Like, I totally understand that framing. But to say, like, I don't put my money in anything that can just be shut off by a push of a button. One, you can't just shut off Bitcoin by a push of the button unless, you shut down all the internet. But even then, Bitcoin won't die. I actually saw, I think it was Francis Pouliot say, doesn't he know that Bitcoin is literally in like nuclear bunkers, so it's never going away? Now, I think maybe that's what he was implying. Again, I'm mind reading. Maybe because of the wars going on right now, he was implying like maybe they'll nuke some kind of critical infrastructure and Bitcoin won't survive that. Maybe that's what he was saying. But it sounds like he's saying that they could just shut off Bitcoin by a push of a button. Now, I don't know how big of a button that would be, but for them to be able to shut down all of our nodes, it'd have to be a pretty magical button, to say the least. So that one's interesting. Now, what was the other thing he said in there? I'm blanking because I was reading the chat. I was reading the chat and I got distracted here. What was the third thing he said? It was in the middle though. He said, get yield. He said, shut it off. Dang, I'm blanking. I'm completely blanking on what is the other thing I wanted to say on it. Wow. It's Monday, guys. Forgive me. I'm completely blanking on it. It's the big red button we're always told not to press. Yeah, exactly, man. At least he didn't say quantum. This is true. Let me see it. I mean, I'm seeing if the chat will spark what I wanted to say. It's our job to meme the crap out of these. Yeah, see, this is today's meme reel. We're gonna meme them. He's okay. I guess maybe I yeah, dude, I'm so low on RAM, bros. Oh yeah, there it is. It's based on fiat. Okay, thank you. I knew it. I knew someone was going to hit it. Okay, it's based on fiat. I actually, as I kind of go, I want to hear your guys' take on this, because I do hear some of you guys say that in the chat all the time. You say, like, Simply Bitcoin's a bunch of fiat maxis because we price Bitcoin in dollars. And I always crash out on you guys. I'm like, dude, what else do we price Bitcoin in? 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. I get it. But it doesn't tell you what the purchasing power is. For better or worse, that's kind of what we have right now. You know, you can say $1 equals $1. Sure, that probably makes sense to most people. But it really doesn't explain the purchasing power of what $1 is compared to what it was. And I think that's basically the idea that I always try to get across. It's like, look, what is a simple metric for people to understand value? It's the dollar. Whether they understand what that means or not, it explains it very simply for people. But this idea of it's based on fiat, is he saying because we price Bitcoin in dollars, it's based on fiat? I think that might just be a complete misunderstanding of what fiat is. Again, fiat literally means by decree. It's governments telling you that their debt, their IOU is money because they said so. So if we break down what fiat means, obviously Bitcoin isn't fiat. There is no one here decreeing that Bitcoin is money. I mean, if it was up to me, I would. You know, if it was up to me, I would decree that Bitcoin is the law or the money of the land. It's the law of the land here that Bitcoin is money. But I don't know what he really means by saying that Bitcoin is fiat. Is he saying because we price Bitcoin in fiat dollars that it's based on fiat? It doesn't really make sense to me. Let me see. It runs on fiat. Is that what he's saying? Chat saved Opti again. Yeah, 100%. Thank you. Honestly, thank you, Jake. You measure in cats. Intrinsic value. Look, I say this all the time and I don't even think people crash out on me when I say, I'm like, look, nothing has intrinsic value, guys. Okay. Like everything is subjective. Maybe I'm just such a Austrian economist. I'm like, everything is subjective, guys. If we've known anything in the world right now, like there is no objective truth. So you can't tell me something has intrinsic value because of its objective value. I'm like, dude, everything is subjective in the world right now. We literally don't share truth ever. No one has a shared truth right now. Everything is subjective. Let me see. I'm done with Terra Tower. That's funny. But Bitcoiners need to start pricing things in Bitcoin regardless of dollar volatility. This item is 10 cents no matter what the dollar is doing. That's like your opinion, man. I like that idea, but if we're still going to see rapid price movements like we've seen in the past, parabolic runs and brutal bear markets, it's kind of hard to do that where we are currently. I do like the fluctuating price of things right now. It's like an exchange rate. To me, I look at the Bitcoin $2 price like an exchange rate. You know, hey, 1 month or 1 year, your dollar's worth more pesos. And the next year, the exchange rate, or next month or week or what have you, the exchange rate changes. I look at the dollar price of Bitcoin as an exchange rate. That's just kind of the mental model that I work with. So like, I get the idea. I like what you're saying, but I don't think in practice that works because the market will reprice based on the economic input of what it costs to make that product. And I mean, look at every huge Bitcoin transaction that's marked a historical moment in Bitcoin. You know what? I forget how many coins it was, but thousands of coins for a Papa John pizza today. You're like, yeah, that was probably not a good trade. You know, I have friends that bought in houses for hundreds of Bitcoin. And today, yeah, you know, it's a cool house, but that exchange rate doesn't work anymore. It makes it hurts when you look back on it. So I don't think that works. I like the chart I seen that was gold price in gold and German money on the same chart. Is that the Weimar one? Is that the Weimar chart? Yeah, there we go. Johnny gets it. With this logic, he can't buy gold because it's priced. Am I the only one that heard that? I'm gonna wrap up on this. Am I the only one that heard that? It seemed like that's what he said, right? Like Bitcoin is based in fiat because it's priced in dollars. Like, it's one of those things where I don't think you know the words you're using, what they really mean. Because that's what it sounded like to me, unless he was trying to make a bigger point. And I've heard people say that Bitcoin is also fiat, but it just made no sense to me. Like, if this is the level of discourse that we are, obviously he's an actor. Yes, he's doing some science stuff. Maybe you could say novel science things. You know, I'm a huge fan of the Taurus. You know, I love the Taurus, right? I think it's interesting. I would love for a new revolutionary math and physics to play out. I'm totally a fan for that. But for now, I think there's consensus on what math and science, or at least physics, is. Now, if there's breakthroughs, I'm very willing and open-minded to change my opinion. So, look, Terrence, I will leave the physics and the math to you, but I won't be coming to you for advice on Bitcoin. And I like Terrence Howard. What's that one rapper movie he did? Hustle and Flow. Hustle and Flow was a banger, bro. I think that's what it was. So I still got some love for you, Terrence Howard, when it comes to Hustle and Flow, but your take on Bitcoin is off. Yes, confidently ignorant, true. It do be like that. And I think actually that does bring up one last thing before I Hustle and Flow, dude. What a banger. I'm going to have to watch that this week. Freaking banger. I think that is an interesting take here. That they did do this out. A lot of people right now, they talk so confidently, and I think people might take that as them actually knowing what's going on. And I think one of the things that I do like about Bitcoiners is that, yes, we're very confident in Bitcoin. We're very confident that we're right. And I've said on the show constantly, but when we get new information, it's never that we just dig our heads in the sand and ignore the new information. We digest it. We see if it's true. We see if it aligns with our first principles. We see if there's a significant breakthrough. Do I have to update my mental models? Do I have to update or clear the lens of how I view the world? And not to just throw Terrence Howard under the bus here, because he might be smart. You know, I have a 42 IQ. He's probably smarter than I am. But you do see a lot of people, whether they have an incentive or, a misguidance, whether they're paid by someone, they're just wholly convinced that they're right. You do see a lot of people come out and just talk very confidently about Bitcoin. And sometimes when you look into it, you realize like they didn't do more than a 5-minute deep dive into Bitcoin. They just made up their mind. Again, going back to the Sailor tweet and the Sailor journey. Very smart guy. He made up his mind about Bitcoin, said the exact same thing. Literally, Bitcoin's days are numbered. Finally got some time to sit down during the 2020 shutdown and was able to really understand what Bitcoin is. And then he became one of its biggest advocates. I think we're going to see a lot more of this happen in real time. Anyways, guys, on that note, yeah, I'm glad the whole chat's seen Hustle and Flow. It's a banger. On that note, guys, I appreciate you. I love you guys. I think Nico will be back with me this week. I really don't know. Dude, just know I'll be here. I'll be here. We'll be putting on a show for you guys all week. Same time as always, Monday through Friday. I do post a show at 12:16. I usually go live around 12:40. But on that note, you guys could keep yelling at me for being late. But on that note, I really appreciate every single one of you guys that rocks with us, that sticks it out, that hangs out with us, that shares the show, that comments in the live chat, that comments on the show, that likes, all that good stuff. I appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of your day. Happy Mondays. I will see you tomorrow. Peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.